Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. It hit me the second my dad raised his glass and called Chase a pioneer. A damn pioneer. We were at this overpriced steakhouse in town. Reclaimed barnwood, Edison bulbs, the whole rustic thing. It was packed for a Wednesday night, but our table, smack in the middle under some rusty tractor sign, was loud enough to drown out the entire dining room. 40 years of marriage, my parents' anniversary. Big deal. Everyone was there. Aunts, cousins, neighbors they barely liked. I was at the far end, wedged between the coat rack and the guy who married my cousin and still calls me kiddo, even though I'm 35. Dad stood, clinked his fork to the side of his beer glass. We just want to thank everyone for coming. 40 years. Not bad, right? People chuckled. He slung his arm around my mom's shoulder. And now, a quick shout out to our legacy. First, to Chase, our very own pioneer in niche media. Everyone turned toward Chase like he just walked on stage at TEDx. His podcast about vintage baseball cards is taking off. And let's not forget all the steps it took to get here. The pet sitting app, genius, just ahead of its time. That AM radio show, total heart laughter. Applause. Someone clinked a glass. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Then came my turn. Dad looked down the table, pointed his glass my way. And Emily, our in-house tech support. Couldn't fix the TV last Christmas without her. A few polite chuckles. I smiled the way you smile when your dentist says, "This might sting." "And what is it you do again, Em?" "Something legal-ish, right?" he added, still laughing. I said nothing, just stared at my steak, medium rare and suddenly cold. My grandmother leaned over to Mom and said, not even bothering to whisper, "It's just a shame she never found her spark." And my mother? She nodded. Didn't even look at me. I felt my cheeks burn. Not from shame, I'd outgrown that, but from the kind of quiet fury that makes your throat tight. Chase was over there basking in praise for failed businesses like he was the next Steve Jobs. I'd built an actual life, a real career, but in this family, unless you played ball or talked about it, you were background noise. I took a sip of wine, swallowed the burn, and smiled. A real smile this time, because I knew what they didn't. The real toast hadn't started yet. I didn't get like this overnight. That dinner? That wasn't the first time I was ignored, just the most polished version. Growing up, I was the quiet one, not shy, just uninterested in all the noise. My family lived and breathed baseball. Spring training was basically a holiday. My dad coached Little League until his knees gave out, and my mom kept score like it was a sacred art. Every room in our house had a bobblehead or signed bat, even the bathroom. I liked puzzles, logic games, science kits. While Chase was out in the yard trying to curve a pitch with a tennis ball, I was inside building models or reading. I once spent 3 weeks building a replica of the Eiffel Tower out of toothpicks. No one even asked to see it. But Chase, the moment he could hold a pencil, he was drawing baseball diamonds. My parents called them architectural, like he'd just redesigned Fenway Park. I remember him striking out 5 times in a row during one game. Total disaster. But afterward, Dad patted him on the back and said, "That's heart, son. You kept swinging. I brought home straight A's every quarter. Nobody ever called that heart." By middle school, I had a routine. School, library, home. I volunteered at the public library 3 afternoons a week, shelving books and tutoring younger kids. My mom would forget to pick me up half the time. One night, I walked home in the rain, soaked through, and carrying a science fair trophy. When I got in, Chase was showing off some new batting gloves. No one even noticed I was dripping all over the carpet. It wasn't like I hated him. Chase was never cruel. He was just raised to believe the world bent toward his interests, and in our house, it did. Junior year of high school, I started thinking about law school. Not dreams of courtrooms and justice speeches. I liked the structure, the logic. I told my dad I needed help getting prep books for the LSAT. They weren't cheap, and we weren't rich, but we weren't broke either. He laughed and said, "You gotta find a cheaper hobby, Em." A month later, Chase pitched a business idea, collectible trading with exclusive NFT tie-ins or some nonsense. He wanted $10,000 to start it. They didn't blink. They tapped into their savings and wrote the check. That business collapsed before the website even launched. Every time he failed, it was growth. Learning curve. Getting his reps in. When I graduated college with honors, my mom said, "Well, of course you did. You're always so practical." Like it was just a byproduct of my personality, not hard work, not late nights, not sacrifices. That's when I started fading out. Not physically. I showed up. I smiled at birthdays, sent thank you cards, asked about people's dogs. But inside, I was already shrinking. I could feel it. One invisible inch at a time. At some point, I realized I wasn't a person in this family. I was context. The one who was fine, the one who always had it together, which really meant the one they didn't have to worry about, or ask about, or think about at all. They called Chase the dreamer. They said he just needed time. They never called me anything, just Emily being Emily. Always said with a shrug. And the older I got, the clearer it became. I wasn't the disappointment. I was just inconvenient. My success didn't fit the family narrative. It wasn't charming. It wasn't messy. It didn't need saving. So they didn't talk about it. Or me. I became the ghost sibling. Still at the table, still in the family photos. But no one ever turned toward me. Chase clinked his glass again like he was about to propose, then stood up, cleared his throat, and said, Okay, hear me out. I didn't even look up. I already knew the rhythm. He always started like that when he was about to pitch another idea no one asked for. A sports memory museum, on wheels, he said. That got their attention, like he'd just invented oxygen. All eyes turned to him. Aunt Carol literally said, Ooh, picture this, he went on, already pacing like some half-baked TED Talk. A converted bus, retrofitted with audio stations, old game footage, signed memorabilia, touring from town to town, bringing the history of American sports to communities that never got to live it. He paused for effect. Dad was grinning. My uncle leaned in like Chase was revealing national secrets. No capital yet, Chase added, almost proudly. But I'm talking to a guy who knows a guy who used to work PR for a minor league team in Arkansas. Could be a good connection. Aunt Carol actually clapped. I sat there, chewing the inside of my cheek. No one noticed I hadn't said a word. No one cared. They were too busy hyping up another nothing project wrapped in a buzzword. Chase kept going. We'd do live Q&As, maybe a podcast segment from each stop, a whole traveling brand. I sipped my wine and watched him spin gold out of air. No plan, no money, no experience, just swagger and blind support. Then, out of nowhere, my mom leaned in toward me, that tight little smile on her face, the one she uses when she wants to sound nice, but twist the knife at the same time. Did you ever finish that thing with traffic tickets or whatever it was? A few chuckles popped around the table, like I ran a kiosk in the mall. I looked right at her, held the smile, and said, Yeah. That thing. Wrapped it up around the same time I helped extradite a guy wanted in 3 states. That shut her up for half a second. But then my grandmother, who apparently still had some breath left, chimed in louder this time. Such a shame, she said, shaking her head like I was terminal. Emily would have made a fine teacher, or maybe a nurse. Something proper. All eyes shifted again, waiting, watching. My mother sipped her wine, not a word, not even a glance. That silence, that was the loudest thing in the room. And that was it, right there. Not a dramatic blow-up, not some tear-filled meltdown. Just a sharp, quiet click inside me. Not broken, just done. Frozen. I picked up my purse, smiled at no one. I think I'm gonna head out, I said. Already? Dad called out. We haven't cut the cake! I kissed my aunt on the cheek, waved at the table, and walked straight to the front without looking back. Outside, the air was thick and muggy. The buzz of the streetlight overhead mixed with distant traffic. My heels clicked against the sidewalk as I walked to my car. And in my head, something started moving. Not rage, not spite, just calculation. I'd waited years, swallowed every brush off, every dismissive shrug, always told myself it wasn't worth the fight. But suddenly, it was. Not to prove them wrong, just to make them look. I didn't go home that night. I went back to the base. Not that anyone in my family would have noticed. Inside the compound, under layers of coded access and soundproof walls, I wasn't just Emily. I was Supervisory Enforcement Agent Riley. I led an interagency task force responsible for high-risk extractions of federal fugitives across state lines. My name didn't show up on public records. My title didn't fit on a business card. But inside that room, when something went sideways, I was the one people looked to. That week, we were prepping for Directive ECHO, a cross-agency relocation of a protected witness who could dismantle an entire cartel branch in Texas, the kind of guy who had a price on his head before we even moved him. Normally, this kind of transfer went down on federal turf, courthouses, military hubs, places with walls and guns. But this time, the decoy team wanted flexibility. They asked for a secure civilian location for a soft handoff. I paused for a beat, then gave them my parents' address. My partner, Dev, stared at me across the table. Your parents' place? Seriously? Suburban? Middle class? Off the radar? I said. No paper trail linking him to me. They won't even realize what's happening. You sure about that? He asked, eyes narrowed. I nodded once. Perfect cover. But it wasn't just about the operation. Not really. It wasn't revenge. I wasn't trying to humiliate them. I didn't want drama. I didn't even want to fight. I just wanted them to look, to see me, not their idea of me, not practical Emily or good with remotes. Me, the person who makes life or death calls before breakfast, the one who orders arm takedowns while they argue about fantasy football. I wanted the silence to crack. As planning moved forward, I made the call to my mom, told her I wanted to start coming around more. Like the old days, she was caught off guard. Her tone went soft, syrupy. Chase has always missed you. Sure he has. My team flagged the block for preliminary sweeps. Nothing major, no red flags. I scheduled the decoy drop for Sunday evening, right around dinner. No loud vehicles, no shouting, no visible gear. Just presence. Controlled, silent presence. Dev pulled me aside 2 days before the operation. You know this move is unorthodox. I'm aware. They'll ask questions. They already do, I said. They just never wait for the answers. He looked at me for a long second, then nodded. Your operation. Your call. The night before the drop, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Dinner at 6. Chase is bringing a guest. I stared at the screen. A half smile crept across my face. Perfect. I called her the next morning. She picked up on the second ring. Emily? Like I'd interrupted a funeral? I was thinking, I said, keeping my voice even, I might start coming around more. Sundays, maybe. Like the old days. Dead silence. Then that fake surprise tone she saves for holiday cards. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Chase has always missed you. I bit down so hard on my tongue I tasted blood. Yeah, I said. Anyway, I'll be there Sunday. She started rambling about pot roast, then something about inviting Aunt Carol. I didn't care. I hung up as soon as it sounded polite. Back at the compound, the logistics were coming together fast. Decoy team was in place. Surveillance mapped, vehicle route locked. My house, my childhood house, was now flagged in 2 internal systems under temporary clearance for federal staging. In 36 hours, a tactical unit would pull up to my parents' curb like it was just another job. Dev kept circling me with that look, the one he gave rookies before a breach. You sure this isn't personal? He asked again. It's secure, I said. That's what matters. You could have used 100 other locations. None of them would have made the point. He shook his head. You don't need their approval, you know. I don't want their approval. Then what do you want? I didn't answer him, because the truth wasn't something I could explain with one clean sentence. I didn't want a hug. I didn't need an apology. I wasn't looking to flip the table and scream, "See me now?" That was kid stuff. That was a version of me that used to hope they'd suddenly care. What I wanted, what I'd earned, was the silence. The kind that forces people to sit in their own discomfort. The kind that makes them realize they'd been wrong without me ever having to say it. I wanted them to sit at that table and feel the weight of everything they never bothered to learn about me. I didn't need applause. I just needed the room to stop pretending. By Friday, the prep was done. Background checks cleared. Vehicle sweep scheduled. My role was simple. Receive the decoy drop at 18:30, verify credentials, relay clearance, and step back. I'd done ops in more hostile environments, cartel stash houses, backwoods bunkers in Kentucky. This was just Sunday dinner. Still, I took a minute alone before we went hot, sat in the locker room, stared at my gear. No badge, no vest, civilian clothes only. Dev leaned in the doorway. Last chance to back out. I'm not backing out. You good? I'm ready? That was true. I wasn't rattled, wasn't angry. I was calm. The kind of calm that comes after years of walking through fire and finally realizing it was never yours to carry. Saturday night, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. Dinner at 6. Chase is bringing a guest. I stared at it for a second. Then I smiled. Not the fake kind, not polite. The real kind. Perfect. Sunday came humid and gray. Not raining, but heavy. The kind of weather that makes your skin feel too tight. I parked 2 houses down and walked the rest of the way. Didn't want to give anything away too early. Inside, the house smelled like pot roast and red wine. My mom's signature combo. The kind she always overcooked but swore was fall apart tender. I walked in without knocking. Voices echoed from the dining room. They were already deep into dinner. I was late on purpose. Chase was standing, animated, arms flailing like a third-string quarterback giving a halftime speech. "It's a dating app for sports fans," he said, grinning. "Like, you list your favorite teams and tailgate food, and boom, instant compatibility." My dad leaned back in his chair, clearly impressed. "Now that's got legs." "Oh, totally," Chase said. "And we'd monetize through merch tie-ins and branded stadium meetups. I've got a rough prototype I slid into an empty chair at the far end." My mom gave me a nod. "There you are, sweetie." "Long day?" "Something like that," I said. My aunt leaned over. "You still working with traffic cameras or whatever it is?" "Still at that tiny legal office?" added my uncle, already chewing. "Yep," I said lightly, reaching for the bread basket. "Still doing my little thing." They nodded like they'd just confirmed I was still breathing, then moved on. I sat there, letting their voices blur around me. Nobody asked anything else. No follow-up. No interest. Just noise. Then headlights swept across the living room wall. A black SUV eased up to the curb. My dad turned toward the window. "Now who the hell is that?" The engine cut. The door opened. Boots on gravel. A knock. Sharp, steady, confident. I stood up. 7 heads turned in sync. I walked to the front door, flipped the lock, and opened it. A man in tactical dress stood there, straight-backed and alert. He wore no insignia, no badge, just presence. He held a black folder and an encrypted comms device in one gloved hand. He saluted. "Agent Riley, Directive Echo is green-lit. Staging team in place." I took the folder and device without flinching. "Stand by," I said. "I'll depart in 30. He nodded once and stepped back. I closed the door behind me and turned. They were all frozen, forks midair, mouths open, eyes locked on me like I'd just walked in wearing a bomb vest. Nobody spoke. The silence stretched so long I could hear the fridge humming in the kitchen. I walked back to my seat, set the folder down next to my wine glass, and sat. Chase blinked first. "What was that?" My mom's hand was shaking just slightly, still gripping her wine glass. My dad finally broke the silence. "Emily, what the hell is going on?" I didn't answer. I picked up my fork, took a slow, steady bite of mashed potatoes. Perfectly bland, just like always. No one moved. That silence? It was everything I came for. Chase was the first to speak, of course. His voice cracked just a little. "What was that?" I didn't look at him. My dad leaned forward in his chair. "Emily, is this a joke? What the hell is going on here?" I set the case down next to my plate, nice and quiet, sat back down like nothing had happened, picked up my fork and took another bite of potatoes. They were cold now. Nobody moved. Grandma pulled a tissue from her sleeve and started fanning herself like she was about to faint in church. My mom was still frozen, glass in hand, lipstick smudged on the rim. She looked like someone had just slapped her across the face. Chase cleared his throat. "Okay, but seriously, was that guy from the military? Or FBI or something?" I didn't respond. I chewed, swallowed, wiped my mouth. Then I stood up. "I have to go," I said calmly, grabbing the case. My dad's voice rose like he was trying to catch up to something already gone. "Emily, wait, what is this?" "Are you in trouble?" "What is that thing? Is this some kind of government job?" Still nothing from me. I walked toward the door. Chase scrambled to stand. Hold on. You're some kind of agent or what?" "What do you do?" The panic in his voice almost made me laugh. I didn't answer, didn't look back. I just walked to the door, opened it, and stepped out. Then I closed it behind me. Not hard, not loud, just final, like the sound of a story ending. I stepped off the porch, the case in my hand, and walked straight to the black SUV waiting half a block down. No one followed. The locks clicked as I slid inside. The engine was already running, cabin cool from the AC. I placed the case on the passenger seat like it was made of glass. Then I drove. For a while, there was just the road. No music, no radio, just the hum of the tires and the sound of my own breathing. Then the first buzz. Dad, what is going on? 3 seconds later. Is this real? Are you in danger? Who was that guy? Another message. Call me, now. I kept driving. Next buzz. Mom, why would you hide this from us? How long have you been doing this? Emily, you lied to us. We're your family. I stared at her words at the next red light, jaw tight. Buzz, 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 chase. Yo, what the hell are you, like undercover or something? Wait, new idea. Podcast. My sister the Fed. You could go anonymous. Think about it. This is gold. I turned into a rest stop off Route 11. The lot was half empty, a trucker sleeping in his cab, someone else walking a dog. I parked under a busted lamp, engine idling, hands still on the wheel. My phone buzzed again. I didn't read it. Instead, I opened the family group chat, the one they use to organize birthdays and forward bad chain emails. I stared at the empty text bar for a few seconds. Then I typed, I never lied. You just never asked. Sent. Then I tapped the top of the chat. Hit info. Scroll down. Block contact. Block contact. Block contact. The screen went still. No more buzzes. No more whining texts. No podcast pitches. No guilt trips. Just quiet. I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I felt it. Not peace exactly, not yet, but space, breathing room, and that was enough. I drove straight through to base that night. Didn't stop, didn't turn the radio on, didn't look back. 3 weeks later, I signed a lease on a small house 15 minutes from command. 2 bedrooms, no yard, 0 noise. The front porch creaked when I stepped on it, and the pipes clanged if you ran the shower and flushed the toilet at the same time. I loved it. I filled it with my stuff. Not hand-me-downs, not gifts I never asked for. Just what I liked. Old books stacked crooked on the shelves. A heavy-duty coffee machine that could probably lift off if I pushed the right button. My climbing gear hung by the back door like armor. My team came by the first weekend I moved in. Dev brought beer and ribs. No one asked why I left dinner early that night. No one asked about my parents at all. They knew, and more importantly, they respected the space around it. We grilled in the backyard, sat on folding chairs, and talked about everything but work. No spotlight, no silence. Just real people who didn't need to pretend they understood me to know I belonged. Weekends became my reset, rock climbing in the canyons an hour west, long hikes with the dog I eventually adopted, a 3-legged mutt with more grit than manners. Evenings were slow, books, playlists, the occasional beer under string lights. I hung myself. There was no applause in this life, no toasts, no proud parents bragging at some dinner table. And for the first time, I didn't miss it. I didn't need to win anything anymore. I didn't need to explain myself. I didn't need to earn a seat at a table.